What's beeping?
Where was we?
We're in Seekonk.
Okay, we're in Seacon.
And the time is 1945?
No, earlier than that.
Earlier? Okay.
Still during the Second World War.
Do you guys have any memories of the war?
Sure.
I don't have much memory.
Gaga moved from the house by the reservoir and sold the house to the people who had the handicraft store.
Really, Henderson?
Henderson. No, not Henderson. In the arcade.
Oh.
They had a store in the arcade. They bought the house. And she moved from the reservoir to Butler Avenue.
President Avenue.
Ah, to the apartment.
To the apartment. And that's
So
where she
president.
spent the war.
No, not president. Yeah, might have been.
It was right off of Butler
On
Avenue.
each side.
Yeah.
Yep, and the trolley car ran up and down Butler
the
Avenue
center.
in the center.
Mm.
And we got a pony of Barney. And Barney came from
Why
the
not?
Johnsons, because the Johnsons were friends at the racetrack, Narragansett racetrack, and Barney belonged to the Shrine Circus.
Oh, I knew that.
And Barney was blinded by a handler at the Shrine Circus at Narragansett track, so they left him behind.
Hit him with a bridle.
Yep. So the Johnsons took him, and he ended up with us. So that's why we built the little barn.
Yep.
And we had a paddock behind the house. And then we had a pony cart for Barney, and once in a while we would drive the pony cart to school, Newman Avenue School.
Yep.
And the little store was named Charpentier, and he was almost opposite the school, not
Yep.
quite. And he had a paddocked area behind the thing. We would drive there, and Barney would be unhitched from the pony cart and turned loose in his paddock, and we would walk to school.
Yep.
Wow.
And once in a while, we would walk home from school if we missed the school bus. But now we're at St. Dunstan's, and St. Dunstan's is downtown Providence, and Nick usually drove us to school
Really?
because he had unlimited gas because of the war effort. So we would be driven to Benefit Street.
Because he was in the defense industry.
Right. And we would go to school. Then we would walk down the hill
Yep.
and catch the bus
To
by
Rumford.
to Rumford by the Flatiron Building.
Yep. Yep.
And the
Church
deal,
State Building.
and then the deal was Mother would meet us there.
Yep.
But we would start walking down Newman Avenue, across the reservoir, and somewhere along there we would be picked up.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
During that time period, Billy was into trapping. And Billy had a trap line. And he would catch muskrats and other things and skin them in the barn and
Sell the
stretch them
pelts?
and sell the pelts.
Wow.
And Billy discovered that the garbage people who picked up the garbage couldn't always get rid of all the garbage as quickly as they would like to, so they dumped it in the big field, and that was very attractive to skunks. So Billy specialized in skunks. And he would,
Damn difficult specialty, right?
What
And
kind
he
of
would
trap
s-
did you set?
Like a whole trap.
and he would have these
Full band.
I think they were illegal today, yeah.
he would have these traps, and he would run the trap line. And one day, he got squirted by a skunk.
Oh
It
no.
was so cold.
yeah.
It was so cold that we didn't notice it. And
Yeah,
this
you couldn't
particular
smell it.
day, Mother had actually driven us
Mm-hmm.
in the old wooden station wagon to
The Plymouth.
school. And as Billy warmed up, he began to effervesce, and he really stank. And they sent him home. And he was sent downtown. He went downtown, got the bus, came home, and
You
walked
wouldn't let
home.
me on the bus.
Well, they wouldn't. He walked home.
Walked
And
all the way.
Wow.
Mother lost her temper with the school and said, "How dare you do such a thing?" But let's go back a little
I suppose the
earlier.
school said, how dare you send him in smelling like
Well,
that?
that's probably true. During the war, the fields next to us were cultivated.
Alfalfa.
Uh, the farmer, I think his name was George Sykes, but I'm not sure.
George Sykes, I thought it was a mellow.
Well, whoever it was smoking, and he threw his cigarette off of the tractor and actually
Start-
plowed around it.
Yeah.
Because it started a fire and he plowed around it.
Yep, and went home. Well, he had thrown it on a peat bog, and the fire went down underground.
Oh.
And disappeared. There was no sign of a fire. And then all of a sudden the swamp was ablaze.
Yep, burned all summer.
Burned all summer. We had fire trucks in the back garden for days on end, just protecting the house.
Yep.
We all walked around with these cans on our back with shooting water out.
Not me, I couldn't pick it up.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
It was very exciting.
It certainly was.
Tell
Burned
them
all
about
summer.
the guy, the
Fall
volunteer fire guy, fell into the peat boss.
Oh yes, the volunteer fire guy was using a broom, and he was brooming out.
There was kind of a swamp behind the house,
Yeah,
like past the
that's right.
crabapple tree.
Yes,
Big
yes.
swamp.
I never really went out there as a kid, but I knew it was
Really?
there.
Yeah, we used to skate on it in the winter.
Oh, that was wonderful. Got to talk about that too. But this guy, the surface looked fine, but it had burnt underneath it,
Yeah.
and he fell into this flaming pit
It
up
was
to his armpits.
Burning
Oh
coals.
my God.
Yes.
Red hot coals.
Yep. He was terribly burned.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be surprised he died.
Don't know.
'Cause he was screaming.
Wow.
I don't
Scared
remember it
me.
at all, thank heaven.
We got sent back to the house.
No.
But
Well,
behind the
fish
house,
come out.
behind the house, through the paddock, through the stone wall, was a pond. And the pond, there was a drainage creek that ran the full length of
Yep.
the swamp.
Yep.
And it was about 6 feet wide and a couple of feet deep,
And 2 or 3 miles long.
a long way.
Well, half a mile anyway.
We would skate on the pond, and then we would skate up and down
I
the
guess
same thing.
Mine was bigger than yours, Bill.
I know it is.
We would always fall in. Somehow we would fall in. We'd get wet. Now we're wet. And for some, we'd piss
You
our
sure
pants.
you want to tell this for future generations?
We would pee our pants. And that was nice and warm to get up to the house. And we would walk on our skates over the stone wall up to the house,
Yep.
and then sit on our bottoms and skid into the house, take our skates off, put our feet in the bottom oven of the auger
The
stove.
warming oven, yeah.
Warming up. Well, years later, I'm on a race off soundings,
Jesus, what a
and
story.
we're tacking from Bartlett Shoals over to Block Island, and it's a miserable day. It's raining, and we're all on the weather rail, and nothing's going to happen to the boat for about a couple of hours. No course change or anything, just going to sail, and it's miserable. And I'm telling stories, and I tell the story about peeing in your pants to Ellen Abrams and Mary Beth Abrams. And they both get laughing so much they start to pee in their pants, and they pee in their pants on purpose.
Did they warm up?
And they warmed up.
Now, you got mad when I told the kids the other day about the chocolate cake named Better Than Sex. Everybody got mad at me, and you're telling this to posterity.
That's all right.
When we used to play down on this pond in the swamp, we pretend that we were hockey players. We had hockey sticks and a puck. Well, all around the pond would be these open holes where the muskrat came up to nibble on the reeds. And every now and then we'd shoot the puck into one of these holes and it'd go way down there. Well, if you stuck your arm in, you got very cold. So we used to grab Peter and put him flat on his face on the ice and make him stuff his arm down there to try and find the puck. And it worked very well, and Peter got cold and he went back to the house.
I remember once we were playing football. Mother yelled out the window that whoever did thus and so come in and get the beating they deserved. We went into a huddle, and you two bastards decided that since I was the
It was
least
you.
important to the game, I should go in.
Yep.
And God help me, I did. Oh dear.
Strong right arm of justice.
I didn't do it, whatever it was.
Didn't
Well-
matter.
Didn't matter.
Was
no.
there a lot of corporal punishment? I guess that was pretty typical for the
Oh,
1940s.
Oh,
yes,
Lord,
yes,
yes. And my mother never said, wait till your father gets home. But I remember the day she whacked me on the bottom with her hand when I had a hip pocket full of shingle nails.
Oh,
Hurt her
Lord.
worse than it hurt me.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Our father used to take us into work on Saturdays once in a while. And one time he took Billy into work. And Billy was turned loose in the pattern shop and made a paddle. And he brought it home and presented it to Mother.
Very proudly.
Yep. And this is the paddle you could paddle Tommy and Peter with it. The first person it was used on was Billy.
I
Oh.
thought that was so unfair. And it split.
Yes, it broke.
It wasn't a very well-made paddle.
Now, somewhere along the line, Nick decided it was appropriate for us boys to learn about guns. And we did a lot of shooting.
Yeah, we sure did.
And it seemed to be important to him that we understand gunpowder. So he would have
Well, we had a kid.
a keg of gunpowder. A keg is about that high, 25 pounds
Yeah,
of
it was
gunpowder.
25 pounds.
It was
Well,
kept in the barn.
Remember that he and Bob Beatty and somebody else made those cannons.
That's true.
So we had the cannon to shoot off, and that's what the gunpowder was for, I would hope.
So we always had gunpowder. And it became the thing to make bombs.
Yeah.
And a very good way to make a bomb is to take a mason jar and fill it with gunpowder. Now, you know, that's a mason jar like that. A lot of gunpowder.
Quart
A lot
of
of
gunpowder.
gunpowder.
Yes. And you drill a hole in the mason jar top,
You could really hurt somebody with that.
and you would take an electric cord, and just spread the ends apart and strip them. And the two bare wires are sticking out like that. Just shove that in the thing. And then screw the whole thing together and cover it with canning wax. Seal it up as good as you could. And then bury it under a stone. Well, there was a stone in the paddock. And
So what shot
that
hole?
stone was very offensive to everybody. So we made this big one. Biggest
Yep.
one we ever made. And we shoved it under the woodchuck hole in the paddock and ran the cord into the house. And what you do is you plug it in the socket.
And
the
the
electric
short
current-
circuit. Kaboom.
Kaboom. And then you go fix the circuit breaker that you just tripped. Well, we plugged it in, and big boom, and the rock rose up. And it rose up, and we're looking out of the window, and we can't see it anymore. It's obviously arched over the top of the house, and it's going to come right through the top of the house.
We
Yeah.
ran.
I
We were-
remember.
Well, it fell almost back in the same hole.
Yeah.
It went
Yeah,
way up.
It
But
went
the three of
right
us
where it
ran across the house and out the front door.
I thought for sure it'd come right through the
Scared
roof.
stiff.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
God, yes. God, yes.
That's
You know,
Yeah, we thought we destroyed the world.
I remember when we had some of those little lady finger crackers, and we were lighting them and throwing them. And Ma came by and saw us, and she said to our father, she said, Nick, those boys are going to hurt themselves. They're going to have a cracker go off in their hands. And he said, you're right, and went out in the barn and made us a bow gun to shoot the crackers.
That's right, a crossbow.
Yes, a little crossbow. That was his answer to the problem.
And one year it was decided we were going to make our own fireworks.
Oh, Lord,
So
yes.
we made a mortar. The mortar was just a piece of wood with a pipe about that big around, and maybe this long, with a hole inside of it.
This is 1948.
It was during the war.
During the war.
You
Before
couldn't
fall.
get fireworks.
And
Well,
the
that
way you
didn't
would make
mean
the
we're not
firework
gonna have fireworks.
was you take a toilet paper roll, just the thing that the
Core.
cardboard, and you would fill it with gunpowder and put a fuse in. And then you would put a little gunpowder in the bottom of this cannon, of this thing, and put a
Mortar.
fuse in there. You'd light the fuse on this thing, drop it down there, light the fuse on that, and hope you timed it right. And it'd go blast, send it up in the air, and it would explode up in the air. That was great. Well, one time, it went blast, went up in the air, came down on the garage and exploded.
On the garage roof.
On the garage roof, in front of the roof.
It didn't go off. It kind of fizzled.
Yeah, but they just put the maple
Yeah.
trees in, and the wires were up, and it was dark, and Pop ran for the garage.
And he hit the
He hit the
wires.
And he went,
He
whoof.
had this
Oh.
huge scar across his arm and
Oh,
across his
no.
leg.
Yeah.
Where he ran into this rusty old
At,
Bailey wire.
baling wire.
at full tilt.
At
Yeah,
full
he
tilt.
was going like hell.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Whoa.
He needed to get a ladder and get that thing out of the gutter before the barn burned down. It was a mess.
Well, one story I always like to tell, which people find hard to believe, and I wonder if you guys could tell me how accurate it is, that we went to Horse Neck Beach. And on the way back, we went by the Lincoln Park,
Mm-hmm.
and we said, oh, let's go in. Pop said, you go on one ride. We went in and we picked a roller coaster. We thought that was wonderful. And he said, well, I only said one ride. I didn't say how many times you could do it. So we went down it enough times that the sunburned skin came off my back. And about a month later, he came home with a truck following him,
Yes.
filled with angle iron and some old 2x4s. And we watched him turn a wheel out of wood. And we went up to Worcester and saw its sandbox cast, like a locomotive wheel,
Yep.
railroad wheel, and took the angle iron and made ties and bolted it all together, and we had our own roller coaster in
Yes,
the
we
backyard.
did. Yes,
And
we
it
did.
Wow.
went down and around the corner and up and down and in the swamp.
Yep.
You actually fell off the end into the swamp?
Yep.
It just came to an end. There was no, it didn't stop. You were still going a pretty good lick. It just came up.
Yeah,
In the
across the tussock grass into the
How
swamp.
tall was it? 10 feet?
I bet it had a drop of 15 feet.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the size of
Well,
a
it was
roller
on the
coaster.
side of a, it was on a hill.
I see,
Yeah,
I
It was
see.
coming down a hill anyway. But it was built up, sure.
In the same place, one year he made a toboggan run.
That's right.
And he basically shoveled snow and then took the garden hose and wet it all down. And we had the most wonderful time that winter.
Oh,
Right
God,
up
was
and
that
down that-
sucker fast.
I built one right beside our house for the
Oh,
kids.
did you? How did it work out?
Pretty good.
They go in the swamp?
No, they went by the tree down there. Into the brook.
Into the brook.
Into the brook.
That's better than the swamp.
Yep.
They pee themselves
So,
after they went in the brook.
The end of
Only
the
if they were
war.
cold.
Okay.
The end of the war comes. And we get rid of the horses magically. I don't really
No, me neither. The horses just kind
Just-
of
just-
left
just
our
kinda
lives.
left. And
I only know where one horse, two horses went.
Who?
One died.
Yeah, Mom's
Ginger.
horse died.
No, it was
no,
Pop's.
Ginger. Nick's
Ginger.
horse.
Pop's horse died under him.
Yes.
And one horse got sold to Narragansett track as an exercise
But it
pony.
came back.
Oh,
Junior.
did it?
Yes, because he
Junior.
tried to race.
That's right. That's right.
But
That's
Barney went off of Woodward Avenue where the pig farms were.
I never knew.
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
Remember
But
that
we never visited. I never understood. Here we had this wonderful little pony that we all loved, and we just cast it aside.
Well, of course, back in those days, people treated, and we were in the country, people treated animals a lot different.
Yes,
They weren't worshipped. If you didn't like your dog, you shot it.
that's true. Well, Billy
Cows
certainly
got
has done that.
slaughtered and eaten.
I've done that.
Yeah.
As recently as 5 years ago.
Do you remember the?
Donna had a cat that ate her canary, and I shot it.
Oh, why would you shoot it?
It ate the canary.
It'd be easier to drown it.
Well, I didn't. I shot it. Don't forget, there isn't much water in New Mexico.
Do you remember the coach dogs?
Yes.
And they would run behind the pony cart
Mm.
and just stay with their noses under the spring behind the pony cart
Right up on the axle.
until a dog came out to worry the horses,
Mm.
and then one of the other Dalmatians would peel off, chase away the dog, and then go back under the axle.
And we had a fox terrier named Spanker. And
Yes.
Spanker was a free-ranging dog. So Spanker, it's on our Sunday trot, and the two
Dalmatian.
Dalmatians are tucked under the carriage, and Spanker's around causing trouble, causing other dogs to come out for the Dalmatians to beat up.
Do you remember when the Dalmatians used to claw at the screen while we were having dinner?
Yes.
And it was the old-fashioned copper screens, and one night Pop comes to the dinner table with my electric train transformer. Hooked it up to the screen. Here come the Dalmatians, scratch, scratch. He says, Pete, give that a nudge.
I'll be damned.
Years later, This is quite in the future.
You go to jail for that now.
I'm married, and they had come to England to watch us get married. And since Nick had gone to the same university I went to, his land, and there was quite an announcement in the newspaper because Nicholas Monstrat, the author, was still around in those days. So Nicholas Monstrat, the author's nephew, is being married, and his landlady read that article in the Birmingham Post. So he contacted my wife's family, who then got Nick, my father, involved with the landlady. And the landlady's greatest recollection was that when Nick left, he gave her his dog, which was a West Highland Terrier. So Nick has to have West Highland Terriers when he comes back from the wedding, so they get 2 Westies. And one of the Westies is in heat, and every dog in the neighborhood is interested in this Westie. So the Westie is in a cage in the backyard, and all these other dogs are coming and peeing on the Westie. So Nick gets offended at that, and he puts telephone insulators underneath each corner of the cage and hooks 110 to it. So the dog is in this cage that is electrified, and a neighborhood dog comes over to pee on it and gets 110 through his urine stream.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that must hurt.
Cut down on the visitors.
Cut down on the
Pretty
visitors
well.
right away.
I guess the hell it would.
Yep.
Wow, wow.
God. Oh my.
Okay, so it's the end of the war. The horses have gone.
Yeah.
The war didn't really affect you guys,
Oh, you
except
gotta
that-
be kidding.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean,
We
it
never
wasn't-
saw my father.
no, never saw
Oh.
that.
no, he was working.
You got one pair of sneakers for the summer, and every now and then you'd get a roll of tape,
Hmm.
and you made the sneakers last for the summer.
You remember when?
And baseballs, you wrapped the baseball in tape as soon as you got it.
Remember, Pop went to Texas and came back with a T-bone steak, and we ate the steak and growled over the bone.
Yep.
And Mom took the bone out into the kitchen after dinner, and somebody came near her and she snarled. Pop said, "Stay away, boys."
Stand back, boys.
Yeah.
At the end of the war, horses go, and Nick gets involved in boats. And there was a book store in downtown Providence.
Little Acorn
Little
Bookshop.
Acorn Book,
The Tingley sisters.
Tingley Sisters, and they had a 12-foot dinghy, slowest boat in the world.
Oh
It was a
yeah.
flat bottom skip.
Yep.
What a pig.
And Nick bought that dinghy. Yep. And then he looked around for a boatyard, and he selected a boatyard in Bristol, Rhode Island, of all
About
places,
an hour drive.
Papasquash Point.
Yep.
And it was the Sam Wardwell's boatyard.
I'd forgotten that name.
And we had that dinghy for 2 or 3 years, and then we upgraded to a 22-foot stone horse
Stone
sloop
Horse Sloop, that's right.
named Phyllis.
Phyllis.
And our big trip with the Phyllis was to go to Block Island.
Yeah, you went to Block Island.
We did that 1 or 2 years.
You went.
No, I didn't. I was
Yes,
too
you
little.
did.
No, you didn't take me. I came
Oh,
over to see.
baloney.
I came over with Mom to see on the ferry.
Then we
Because
bought-
I know you were there when we went to the weather station. You were there.
That's
Then we-
right, but I was too little to
Oh,
go
the
on the
weather
boat. I
station.
didn't get electric motor for Christmas either.
all the weather station thought. So then Nick bought a ketch, a 30-foot Tahiti ketch,
Double ender.
double ender, in Hamburg Cove,
Yep.
off of the Connecticut River.
Yep.
And we picked that boat up, and Billy, Nick, Bob Hathaway, who was our parents' friend, and myself brought the boat home, and I got so seasick on the way back.
I don't remember Bob Hathaway.
Kendall Oil.
Kendall
Huh?
Oil.
Bob Hathaway taught
He
printing
He ran the RISD Auditorium.
at
Yes,
RISD.
yes, yes.
When
He
we were-
died, he was a typesetter,
Huh.
and he died from chewing his fingernails with lead from the
Is
type
that
under his
right?
fingernails.
Wow.
Something happened
He
between
turned
our
black.
parents.
Oh, they went to dinner with they went to have dinner with Bob and Chris Hathaway, and we knocked on the door, and Bob opened the door and said it was last week and slammed it.
Really?
Yeah, they'd forgotten what week it was. Well, you don't know. I once watched Pop when he he very carefully put 3 teaspoons of coffee in the sugar bowl. Now that's absent-minded.
Wow.
So we buy this catch.